How does the Bible describe the reign of Omri? This is the question we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of 1 Kings on walking through the Bible. Today we're going to be discussing 1 Kings chapter 16, verses 21 to 28. But before we do that, let's read the passage. If you have a Bible with you, you can turn to 1 Kings chapter 16, verse 21. But if you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So 1 Kings chapter 16, beginning verse 21. Then the people of Israel were divided into two parts. Half the people followed Tibni, the son of Ginath, to make him king, and half followed Omri. But the people who followed Omri prevailed over the people who followed Tibni, the son of Ginath. So Tibni died, and now Omri reigned. In the 31st year of Asa, king of Judah, Omri became king over Israel and reigned 12 years. 6 years he reigned in Tirzah. And he bought the hill of Samaria from Shemer for 2 talents of silver. Then he built on the hill and called the name of the city which he built Samaria, after the name of Shemer, owner of the hill. Omri did evil in the sight of the Lord, and did worse than all those who were before him. For he walked in all the ways of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and in his sin by which he had made Israel sin, provoking the Lord God of Israel to anger with their idols. Now the rest of the acts of Omri, which he did, and the might that he showed, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? So Omri rested with his fathers, and was buried in Samaria. Then Ahab his son reigned in his place. Ever since Baasha was defeated by Ben-Hadad of Syria, there has been political unrest in Israel. God had already foretold that he would rend the kingdom from the house of Baasha, which he did during the days of Baasha's son Elah, ending the second dynasty of Israelite kings since the division of the kingdom between Israel and Judah. Zimri, the man who killed Elah and all his household in a coup, himself was only king of Israel for 7 days. Why? Because when the army of Israel, who was at war with the Philistines, heard of the coup, they made their commander, Omri, king over Israel, not wanting Zimri to be king. Omri and the army then marched to Tirzah, where the king's household was, in order to seize the throne. When Zimri saw what was happening, rather than allow himself to be killed by Omri, he committed suicide by setting the king's house on fire with himself in it. Thus the short reign of Zimri ended in about 85 BC. For simplicity, we're now going to adjust our chart because we are running out of room, putting the reign of Asa at the top left, since much of what we are talking about in Israel still is occurring during his reign in Judah. Now you would think that once the army of Israel had made Omri king, that would settle it, but that was far from the case. Baasha's house had been all killed, so there was no person from his house to be named king instead. But there was about half the population who didn't want to follow Omri, and so they made Tibni, the son of Ginath, king. Other than his name and who his father was, we know nothing of Tibni, largely because he ultimately lost to Omri and died, and Omri was made king over all Israel at that time. It is often said that history is written by the victors, and in this case, the Bible is following that adage by simply not telling us much about the failed king of Israel, Tibni. Now, simply reading verses 21 and 22, we might come to think that maybe this was a week-long struggle, but not if we're reading the passage closely. Back in verse 15, we found that Zimri took the throne in the 27th year of the reign of Asa, reigning for 1 week. That means the struggle for the throne began with Zimri's death at that time. However, verse 23 tells us that Omri became king over all Israel in the 31st year of the reign of Asa. That means for the better part of 3 to 3.5 years, there was no king reigning over all Israel. Sure, you had those who followed Omri and those who followed Tibni, but each opposing side didn't recognize the other as the rightful king, resulting in battles over the throne. When Omri finally won, he became king of Israel, and the year is about now 881 BC. Now, the reign of Omri is going to be a consequential one, and he is one of the Israelite kings that is mentioned by other nations in archaeological artifacts that have since been unearthed. Now, why was Omri's reign so consequential? Because it was Omri who moved Israel's capital from Tirzah and Shechem to Samaria. Omri purchased the land on the hill needed to build the city from Shemer, who the city is named after, for 2 talents of silver, which in 2023 money is about $43,000 Canadian or $33,000 American. Samaria is about 14 kilometers or 9 miles due west of Tirzah, though to travel to it from Tirzah would be through the nearby valleys, making the trip about 23 kilometers or 14 miles. Samaria would be the capital of Israel from now until their captivity by Assyria, and would not only refer to the name of the city, but the name of the region and even the country of Israel. After Israel was taken off into captivity, the people who would live in this region would become known as the Samaritans, the people who inhabited this region during the days of Jesus. We'll see who these people are and where they came from later on in our Old Testament studies. As the 6th king of Israel, you would think that he would be far enough removed from Jeroboam that Omri might consider reforming the worship of Israel. But no, the Bible said that not only did Omri do evil in the sight of the Lord, but that he was worse than all those who came before. Think about that for a moment. Jeroboam is the evil man that all Israel's kings are compared to, and Omri was worse than him. That shows you the pervasiveness of idolatry and where it will eventually lead you, which is to more and more sin. And the reason for that is obvious. God is the one who sets the moral standards for man. But if you worship your own gods, those gods set the standard. But since they are inanimate, and thus not gods at all, whatever mankind says the God said sets the standard, making man the standard. And when man is the standard, he will accept all sorts of deviant behavior that God would simply never accept. Omri's reign over Israel would not last long, though. 12 years in total, 6 years reigning in Tirzah and 6 reigning in Samaria, bringing our timeline down to about 870 BC at his death, meaning he would end his reign during the first year of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. His son Ahab would reign in his place, and it will be the reign of Ahab that will take up almost the entirety of the rest of 1 Kings, with the prophet Elijah prophesying during this reign. We'll begin our look at the reign of Ahab, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of 1 Kings chapter 16, verses 29 to 34, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time.
Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.